All right, good morning, gang. What's happening? We've got a 2-game NBA slate to talk about, so not a ton of games, not a ton of players, not a ton of props, but we're going to make the best of a light NBA slate. Thank you so much for everybody who is joining me here. Thank you to everyone who is back again this morning. I appreciate you all being here. We're going to make the best of the day, right? Make the best of the day. First of all, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you get subscribed now. Make sure notifications are turned on so you don't miss out on any of my content. I go live Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday. Sometimes I make a weekend appearance and talk some NFL football. But I go live every morning, typically Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you subscribe and you turn on notifications, you won't miss out on any of my content. And obviously, if you're already here, please drop a like on today's stream, folks. We are going to run it back with 100+ likes once again. I know we can do it. Now, big milestone, we passed 2,200 subscribers. Thank you so much for the continued support. I can't do any of this stuff without you. It's because of you that I show up every day. It's because you join me, you like these videos, you subscribe, and you keep the action going that I keep getting up, rolling out of bed, and coming right here and sitting in front of this camera and talking NBA player props with you day after day. So as long as you guys keep supporting me, I will keep supporting you and doing whatever I can to try and help as many of you as possible. So let's go through the live chat. I see we got some people in here talking about some things, per usual. Some familiar faces. Travis, good to see you. Wander Lutz says, it was a bumpy night last night. Got saved by a James Harden DNP. Well, listen, I think I would have benefited if James Harden would have ended up playing. I like some of his first half props. Unfortunately, our man James Harden did not decide to play basketball last night. And yes, we would be remiss if we did not talk about Julius Randle. Yes, I rolled the dice on Julius Randle. Many of you saw me roll that dice here live. And, you know, I forgave Karl Anthony Towns. I tried to forgive Julius Randle, but I think this is the last time for me. For a while, anyway, until Julius Randle gets traded, that I'm going to be playing any Julius Randle props for a while. I hate the Knicks, all right? When it comes to fantasy sports betting, I hate the Knicks. Julius Randle might be public enemy number 1 on that New York Knicks team for me. So yeah, he burned me. He burned me. Despite my gut telling me not to do it, I did it anyway, out of good faith and hope that, he would turn the corner and maybe he would have a good game. But no, not to be had last night. Not against the Heat. The Heat absolutely pummeled the New York Knicks. So it was a bad night to be on some Julius Randle overs. But I did it anyway. It was a recommended play by somebody I trust dearly. And we rolled with it, and it doesn't work out all the time. No, it doesn't work out all the time. King Chris, good to see you up in here. Lewis, what props are the favorites for tonight? Oh, I see what you're doing there. You're trying to get around using the word lock, aren't you? Okay. Well, listen, Lewis, we just started, buddy. We're going to get into it. All right? Hold your horses. Hold them horses back. Yeah, I saw a few people see Chav who got burned by Luka Doncic in those free throws, unfortunately. King United, good to see you up in here. Ivan, hello to you. Someone got a good tool for searching players with more points per game in the paint. Not that I know of. Points in the paint, not quite sure. You could try NBA.com. They actually have a pretty robust stat tool on NBA.com. There might be points in the paint. Check that out. Nathan, I can't see the board. Are we feeling a Golden State blowout? Why can't you see the board? What's going on with that? Wes, yo, boss man. Yo, back to you. Juan Julio says, good morning, hustlers. Are back at it again, for sure. Wander Lutz says, let's get those likes going for all the algo robots. Yes, the algorithms love the likes, folks. They love when you feed them the likes, the YouTube algorithms, that is. Low baller, good morning to you. Martin, always the man of the hour, the host with the most. Last night, it was Chris Paul who robbed me of $1,000. What prop did you have on Chris Paul? Did you take fantasy points, assist, something else? Let us know. Jay Red says, don't put another $1 on Randall. Yeah, you're right about that one. I cannot do it. Listen, maybe I take some unders on Julius Randle. Is that fair to do? Do we start considering just everything Julius Randle related as an under, perhaps? Maybe we do. David says, good morning. Woof, my PRA was bad yesterday. At least Fournier hit. Listen, man, I missed a couple of picks too. I had Ivica Zubac going over points or fantasy points against the Orlando Magic. Great matchup. He had gone over, that is, in points and fantasy points with a pretty high competency, a high hit rate against the Magic and other opponents. Did not get it done. He fell very short. He had a late last-minute turnover before the end of the first half that put him under on his fantasy points. And he shot pretty bad. For the second game in a row, he shot pretty bad in the first half against the Orlando Magic. And then I played Wendell Carter Jr. on the other side over first half fantasy points. And again, great matchup. Looked like a prime opportunity. But my man Wendell Carter Jr. just didn't get it done, y'all. He just didn't get it done. So it's like that sometimes. But for every Ivica Zubac and Wendell Carter Jr. flop, then you got guys like Monty Morris over 11 first half fantasy points that hit. You get LaMelo Ball over full game fantasy points that hit. So you got to get some good with the bad. It can't be all bad, can't be all good. Sometimes you get a little bit of both, right? Jacob says, good morning every day. Bad day yesterday, but it's a new day. Let's get back to this bread. Yes, we will. We'll get back to the bread as best as we can on a 2-game slate, right? Jimmy Green, good morning to you. Jermail, back in here. What's good to you? 44 Beer says, Fournier covers first half points prop. Whoever called that, nice. That was my man, David, who called that one. Shout out to you, David. That play ended up working out. Todd, live for Sundays or live for Sundays? I don't know which one it is, my friend, but good morning to you. Let's do this huge slate tonight. Yeah, that's sarcasm. Todd with the sarcasm. Donato Lombardi says, good morning, OGs. Aaron Rodgers is in here. He's got the shades on. Listen, I told everybody in Discord about you, Aaron Rodgers. I had a feeling you'd be the type that you would just show up this morning and you'd be bragging and boastful about your Steven Adams under. I kind of knew. I kind of knew you'd be in here with your chest pumped out, talking big things about Steven Adams. Listen, it was a great matchup for Steven Adams, all right? The numbers don't lie, Aaron Rodgers. You saw it along with everybody else. Congratulations on being right, though. It's a good feeling when you're right, right? Royster Cam says, good morning, y'all. What up, CJ? What up to you? Yeah, way to go on the unders. On Adams. Mr. Rogers. Everyday Fantasy, a.k.a. Don P111. Good morning, CJ, Patreon gang, live stream gang, small slate today. Let's be smart. That's right. Let's be smart with our bankrolls. Let's not go crazy and, empty the clip. Empty the clip on 2 games, 4 teams. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Knucklehead says, let's go. Poisiana in the house. Love to see that. Blaze to the Sky Media Group. What's good to you? What's good to you? The Fournier first half worked, Aaron Rodgers. Fournier first half worked. He hit the over on his, 5.5 points or something like that? Yeah, that was David who dropped that Evan Fournier play. Shout out to David. Comes through with some pretty strong picks. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Nick, good morning to you. Rough day in the NBA, but great day in PGA. Well, Nick, you're going to have to put me on some PGA game, my friend. You're going to have to put me on. That Hunt Boy 92 says, let's get it today. CJ, we got LeBron and Embiid. Drew Breeze, love that name. New Patreon member here. Hey, thank you so much for your support through Patreon. Appreciate you being a part of the crew. Love it. Mo says, February 1st can't come quick enough. I need that Patreon. I'm on a crazy losing streak right now. Well, listen, we don't have the secret sauce, the recipe, the crystal ball, the key to unlocking all the wins every single day, every single night. Okay? We don't have the winning formula, the winning secret. But listen, we're trying our best every single day as a crew, as a group, as a community to get it done. All right? We're trying to get it done in there each and every day, but we would love to have you aboard, all right? We would love to have you aboard. Ryan says, let's go, CJ. I have a feeling you're having us set up for a great day of success. Well, yeah, as best as we can do, right? As best as we can do on this this little itty-bitty baby slate. Little itty-bitty baby slate. Malachi's already liking some LeBron James assists. Oh, yeah, maybe. Aaron Rodgers is saying that Zubac is unreliable at this point with his minutes not being secure. Well, no Marcus Morris in there. Everything looked great. I put the analysis, the full write-up for the pick in the Discord and on Patreon. And listen, man, there was a lot of strong indicators that Zubac could have gotten it done. I don't think it was a matter of his minutes. I think it was a matter of him just missing shots. And that's been the case for 2 games in a row. He went 0 for 5 against Washington. Last night, I think he went, 1 for 6 or something like that in the first half against the Magic. I don't think it's a matter of minutes. I think it's a matter of just making your shots, Zubac. But yeah, opportunities were there, just couldn't convert. George, good morning to you. Leroy, good morning to you. Isaac's in the building. Show Enough TV, top of the AM. Let's get this win. Love it. Timothy Scott, good to see you. Matt Clark says he joined PrizePicks a few weeks ago, and you have been a huge help recently. Let's make some money tonight. All right. If I missed anybody, it's nothing personal. I love all of you. Shout out to Magic. I don't think I said anything to Magic. Shout out to you. Let's go ahead and get into this slate, guys. 2 games, right? Not a lot going on in the association tonight, but they're going to be some good ones, and they're going to be on prime time TV. Aaron Rodgers is the hero of the chat today. He's the hero of the live stream. Everybody, make sure you say thank you if you tailed Steven Adams under whatever it was. PRA, was it? Or fantasy points? I don't remember. But that's why we do what we do, man. We bring different people, different personalities, different ideas, different picks, different plays into the live stream, into the chats every single day, right? There might be something that somebody's on that we would have never thought of, like Evan Fournier over 5.5 first half points, or Steven Adams under whatever it was, PRA or fantasy points. I think they probably both hit. But that's why we do what we do, to uncover the goods, Isaac said, CJ said it don't matter how much he plays, if he ain't a baller. Zubac absolutely torched me versus the Wizards. Yeah, listen, he went 0-for-5, man. He just missed his shots. It's unfortunate, it's unfortunate. All right. So let's start things off here. 7:30 p.m. A little bit of a different start time here on the East Coast. Instead of 7 p.m., it's going to be 7:30 p.m. A little bit of a later start because of these two primetime games. We've got the Los Angeles Lakers at the Philadelphia 76ers, 218 implied point total. Not bad, right? Not super low, but not sky high either, but a decent little meaty total here with a 3-point spread in favor of the Philadelphia 76ers. Looking at both sides of this game, the real impactful injuries are going to be on the Philadelphia side. Most notably, Seth Curry will not be playing for Philadelphia tonight. No Seth Curry, so it's going to be the Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle backcourt once again for Philadelphia. But of course, as we mentioned in the previous show, last time the Lakers took the floor, Anthony Davis made his return, but he was limited, severely limited. Hopefully you guys were able to take some unders. He was up at like 18.5 points when PrizePicks originally posted him. I think he was up at 7.5 rebounds too. So if you were an opportunist and you jumped in there early, you could have smashed some unders on Anthony Davis and you would have made some cash. So we'll have to wait and see what we have for AD, if he's even on the board. I'm not seeing him up on the board right now. But interesting play there. 10 p.m., the other game, the only other game, the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Golden State Warriors, 229 implied point total, 6-point spread in favor of the home team, the Golden State Warriors. This should be a fun game. Looking at the injury news here, Noel and Beverly, both game time decisions. Over on the Golden State side, still no Draymond Green, no James Wiseman, no Andre Iguodala, but it looks like we're going to have Klay Thompson in the lineup. So Mr. Klay should be back for Golden State. Let's go ahead and get into it. I mean, there's not really much else to say here. 2 games, right? We're going to do the best that we can to hopefully find some winning plays here. So let's start things off here by looking at some points props. We got to start things off with this guy, LeBron James, 28.5 points over the last 10 games. LeBron James covering 28.5 points has been easy. 80% of the games, 8 out of 10, he has gone over 28.5 points. He's averaging 30 points per game over the last 5, and he's covered in 4 straight games. We know Anthony Davis isn't 100% healthy yet. He is not 100% back. So I still think that LeBron James and his points props will be in play here. So let's go take a look with AD back. Maybe LeBron plays a little bit more at the 3 or 4 spot. We'll look at both and see how Philadelphia has done against both small forwards and power forwards here over the last 7 games. So looking at the power forward position, Philadelphia giving up about 19 points per game. That puts them down toward the middle, but bottom of the middle. So kind of a tough matchup on paper, but if anybody can overcome a matchup on paper, it's LeBron James, right? LeBron James. Philadelphia against small forwards, they're giving up just 18.4 points per game. So it looks like they do a pretty good job at defending both the 3 and the 4 spot, which is where LeBron will likely spend most of his time this evening. So let's go ahead and pull up some projections for you. We're going to be using the Action Labs projection tools provided by Fantasy Labs. We'll take a look at his points prop and give you an idea of which way we should be going here. Got him projected for 287. How about 28.7 points? Slightly more than the 28.5 that he's listed at on PrizePicks. We got him on 4 different sites right now. Not seeing a ton of action on this prop yet this morning. 28.5 over on FanDuel Sportsbook, though. We are seeing a little bit of action. People already taking the over. on LeBron James. Now we can kind of take things a little bit further here. If you would like, we can go LeBron James points versus Sixers logs. And kind of get an idea, as a member of the Lakers, how many times has he covered 28.5 points against Philadelphia? Well, it looks like twice. He's actually 2 for 4, or a 50% hit rate. He dropped 34 on the Philadelphia 76ers back on January 27th of last year. That was last season. So he covered it in the last game, had 22, 29, and 18. So hasn't been the greatest hit rate since joining the Lakers against this Philadelphia 76ers squad in terms of covering this points prop of 28.5. So just a little bit more insight, a little bit more info on LeBron James. LeBron James. Let's go ahead and take a look at another guy who's been hitting. We talked about this dude the other day. He's still at 7.5 points. Mr. Jared Vanderbilt. Over the last 10 games, an 80% hit rate at covering 7.5 points. We look at the last 5 games here. Still rocking a strong 80% hit rate. He'll be going up against the likes of Otto Porter Jr. He's a junior, right? Otto Porter Jr.? Or is it just Otto Porter? I don't know. There's so many Porters and Porter Juniors and stuff going around. I think it's Otto Porter Jr. though, right? Anyway, Jared Vanderbilt, 7.5 points has been easy peasy. The last time he missed was against the New York Knicks back on January 18th. So he's been showing a pretty good ability to score the basketball. Do we go back to Jared Vanderbilt tonight with these high hit rates? 80% in the last 10, 80% in the last 5 as well. Looking at this matchup here, he's going up against the Golden State Warriors. And over the last 7 games, the Warriors giving up about 19 points per game to opposing power forwards. So there's a little bit of upside here. The guy needs 8 points. They're giving up 19. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to cash in on like 4 buckets. What do you guys think? Let's also look at the center position. I like looking at both of the front court spots because we know with Karl Anthony Towns, sometimes he's like a stretch 5. He likes to hang out at the 3-point line. Then my man Jared Vanderbilt playing more of the traditional center role down there, banging and bumping and rebounding, right? So Golden State against opposing centers, they're giving up about 24.3 points. So yeah, while it's not like the greatest matchup in the world, it's also not the most difficult either. There's some upside, some wiggle room for him to get 8 or more points. Let's pull a projection up here for Jared Vanderbilt. We talked about him in our last stream. He ended up hitting his prop, scoring 13 against Portland. Maybe he repeats tonight. Got him projected for nearly 9 points. At 7.5 points across 4 different books, 4 different sites, we're seeing him as a betting favorite at -135 and even -140 odds to cover his prop. What do you guys think? Are you rocking with Jared Vanderbilt or not? Leave a thumbs up if you're riding with this prop. Leave a thumbs down if you're fading this prop. All right? Let me know what you guys think. Mr. Jared Vanderbilt getting it done. It is Otto Porter Jr., right? OPJ. I thought so. All right, other props to maybe consider. I don't know if we're going to want to go here, but Avery Bradley could potentially be a good look. Now, I know what you're saying. You're probably like, who's Avery Bradley? 6.5 points over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate on Mr. Bradley here. This is why I'm bringing him to your attention, because quietly he's covering 6.5 point prop. Now, at 6.5 points over the last 5 games, he's covering at an 80% clip. Seeing a lot of thumbs up here for Jared Vanderbilt. So it looks like he's going to be on a lot of your radars. Cool. Love it. Avery Bradley here over the last 5 games, 80% hit rate, averaging 9.4 points per game. That's nearly 3 points higher than his number today at 6.5. So let's go check out this matchup. Obviously, we got Russell Westbrook at point guard. Avery Bradley playing some of that shooting guard spot. And they're going up against the Philadelphia 76ers, who will be without Seth Curry. How will that impact things for Avery Bradley? Kind of remains to be seen. But this matchup here against Philadelphia, not looking like the greatest in the world. But listen, they're giving up 20.5 points per game to the shooting guard spot. So while they do rank pretty low, they kind of fall low in the rankings here. Guy needs 7 points. 7 points. He's not a high volume shooter. All right. He's kind of a 3-and-D type of guy. Kind of like a KCP type. He's only really going to shoot threes and play defense. Maybe he finds a layup once in a while. Maybe he gets to the free throw line every once in a blue moon. But he's not going to be a guy who's going to attempt, 10, 15 shots per game or anything crazy like that. For the projections on Avery Bradley, I've got him going for 7.2 projected points. And at 6.5 points, we're seeing betting odds to go over on 4 different sites. So the betting public putting their money back down on Avery Bradley. What are you guys thinking about some Avery Bradley tonight? We talked about another less known, not a well-known guy in Jared Vanderbilt at 7.5 points. Is this going to be another low point prop that you're going to take the over on and hope that it hits? Leave a thumbs up if you're going to play some over on Avery Bradley. Leave a thumbs down if you're going to play the under or just fade altogether. Let me know how you guys are feeling about Avery Bradley. Good hit rates, though, for this guy. Now, another one that is going to be an interesting play because there's a little bit of a revenge narrative here on Mr. D'Angelo Russell. Yes, once upon a time, he was a member of the Golden State Warriors. It wasn't that long ago, folks. Some of you remember. Some of you don't. But listen, D'Angelo Russell had 18.5 points over the last 10 games, 60% hit rate. Showing an ability to not just be an assist man, but to actually score the rock. He's had points totals of 31, 23, and 22 over his last 3 games, showing major pop when it comes to scoring points. Do we think that D'Angelo Russell's going to be in more of a facilitator role tonight against Golden State, or is he going to look to exact revenge against his former employer, the Warriors? Let's go take a look at this matchup here. I believe Pat Beverly is still a game time decision. No official ruling on him. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what's going on with Patrick Beverly and his status and how that impacts D'Angelo Russell. But the Golden State Warriors pretty tough this season against opposing point guards when it comes to points allowed. Over the last 7 games specifically, they're giving up just over 19 points per game. So not a lot of upside here for D'Angelo Russell at the point guard spot. Now, if Pat Beverly starts, Russell then kind of slides into more of a shooting guard role. Now, let's take a look at Golden State and just kind of see how they do against opposing shooting guards. A little bit better here, right? Giving up 21.1 points. So a little more wiggle room, a little more upside for D'Angelo Russell to potentially be an overplay. And we know that he can go over, as I mentioned, 30, 20, and 20 plus points in his last 3 games. So D'Angelo Russell could be one to definitely consider. Let's get a look at his projections here. We've got him projected for 21.4 points. No, we're not talking about Russell Westbrook. We're talking about D'Angelo Russell at 21.4 points. That puts him over by almost 3 points versus the 18.5 that we're seeing him at on the board. Now we look at 4 different sites here, minus 120, minus 114, minus 125 on some sites as a betting favorite to go over 18.5. So will this young man have ice in his veins tonight? Or will he just be ice cold and not cover his points prop? Well, for this one, I'd like to look into it a little bit deeper. So we can do that by using StatMuse, D'Angelo Russell points versus Warriors logs. All right, kind of get a look at it here. It hasn't been pretty. It has not been pretty here. As a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves, 3 games, he has never covered his point prop of 18.5 points against his former team, the Golden State Warriors. He is 0 for 3 as a member of the T-Wolves when playing Golden State. Now, I will bring to your attention the minutes here. Because we go back to April 29th, 2021, he played just 24 minutes, shot just 3 for 11, ended up with 7 points. Not a great game. Didn't play a whole lot, and when he did, the shots that he took were not going down. All right. Now, he did get 34 minutes against Golden State back on November 10th of 2021. So that was earlier this season. Earlier this season, 34 minutes played, had 18 points. Again, a little bit of a struggle from the field, 7 for 15. Not a great shooting night. And then the most recent matchup was January 16th. That was 11 days ago. This year. Scored just 7 points in 22 minutes of court time. Shot just 2 for 9. Does not shoot the ball very well against Golden State as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. And then you kind of get a holistic view. Every time that he's played Golden State throughout his career, I mean, how many times has he actually went over 18.5 points? 1, 2, 3 times. 3 times out of, I don't know, 10 games, it looks like. Not a very high hit rate at covering 18.5 points. So there's a little bit more of a deep dive on D'Angelo Russell. We could go even deeper down the rabbit hole, but I won't do that. I won't do that. So I don't know that we're going to necessarily go with D'Angelo Russell. What's in the cup? What does that mean? What's in the cup? What cup? Is there a cup somewhere? Am I missing something? What cup? I don't know what you mean by that. Anyways, looking at some of these other point props here, do we want to go with one of these backup guards like a Furkan Korkmaz or Tyrese Maxey without Seth Curry? I mean, we could kind of look into it a little bit just to kind of give you an idea. So we'll go Tyrese Maxey points without Seth Curry logs, and we'll kind of get an idea of how Tyrese Maxey has scored without Seth Curry in the lineup this season. So we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games from this season. Tyrese Maxey without Seth Curry in the lineup. He's at 17.5 points. So let's count them down together. He had 31. That's an over at 24, over at 23, over at 19, and over at 18. And he falls under against the New Orleans Pelicans here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 games this season. He has covered 17.5 points without Seth Curry in the lineup. I think this could be an intriguing play here, especially against a Lakers backcourt that is not the best defensively. They're not a great defensive backcourt. So let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup. Look at LA, guys. They're giving up over 28 points per game over the last 7 games to opposing point guards. That's the second most. And we're talking Tyrese Maxey without Seth Curry hitting 5 out of 6. There's only been one game where he hasn't covered 17.5 points without Seth Curry this season. Yeah, matchups there, opportunities there. So when matchup and opportunity meet, listen, there's a chance for good things to happen, right? A chance for good things to happen. So I think Tyrese Maxey's in a pretty nice little spot here. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection on Maxey. Got him projected for 18.9 points, nearly 19 points. We look across the board here. Betting favorite to go over on at least 3 out of these sports books. 3 out of 4. What are you guys thinking about my man Tyrese Maxey? Drop a thumbs up if you're feeling the over on his points prop. If you're not liking it, thumbs down in the chat or just type fade, whatever you want to do. But I think this is looking pretty good. Sam, the projection site that I'm using is called Fantasy Labs, and it's got a little feature in there called Action Labs, which is their player prop projection tool. So you guys digging some Tyrese Maxey? Tyrese Maxey? Aaron Rodgers is liking Tyrese Maxey. He was right yesterday. Can lightning strike twice for my man? Discount, double check, Aaron Rodgers. Guys, I really think I'm liking this play, though. Showing a great ability to score more than 17.5 without Seth Curry. The projections look good. People are betting the over. The matchup looks fantastic. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to be in play for me. All right. I think that's going to be it. We'll probably get some questions about some more points props. Let's go ahead and move it on over to the rebound props and take a look at some of those. I think we've done a pretty good job there of looking at some points props, though. In terms of rebound props, you're not going to see him up on the board, but Malik Monk at 2.5 boards. An 80% hit rate at covering 2.5 rebounds. He is not up on the PrizePicks board, but maybe you play on a different site. If you don't play on PrizePicks yet, maybe you should consider doing so. 100% instant deposit match still going on with promo code Curry. There's a link down in the description below. But listen, Malik Monk at 2.5 rebounds, 80% hit rate, looking pretty darn good. Kevon Looney at 8.5 rebounds, 70% hit rate for him. He is up on the PrizePicks board, so 7 out of his last 10 games, he has exceeded his rebound number of 8.5. Going up against a Minnesota team tonight that can be rebounded against. We know that Karl Anthony Towns is softer than a wet tissue. So I think Kevon Looney has an opportunity here to keep the good times going with his rebound prop. 70% hit rate over the last 10 games and 80% hit rate over the last 5 games. He's averaging nearly 2 rebounds more per game over the last 5 than his line of 8.5. So let's go look at this matchup. Looney's been slotting in there at the center position. He's going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, so it'll be Karl Anthony Towns, Jared Vanderbilt manning the middle. So we go find the Minnesota Timberwolves in this list here. Maybe I missed them. Oh man, I'm missing them. I'm missing bad right now, guys. I'm missing bad. This is so embarrassing. There they are. 14.8 rebounds per game. Kind of a middle of the road matchup. So 14 to 15 rebounds given up per game to opposing centers. So Looney's been doing a fantastic job without Draymond Green around in terms of getting on the glass. So I don't mind this matchup whatsoever. I think there's plenty of room for upside here for Kevon Looney. Let's go ahead and take a look at the projection for Looney. Got him projected for 9.4 rebounds, 9.4 boards, and then at 8.5 rebounds, he is a betting favorite on 3 different sites, the betting public. Taking the over on Kevon Looney. He's been very solid in terms of rebounding the basketball. Now, if you wanted to take a deeper dive, a closer look at this, you can go Kevon Looney rebounds versus Minnesota logs. And you can kind of see how he's done back on January 16th, 2022. So that was just, 11 days ago when these teams last met. Played 25 minutes, pulled in 12 boards. If we go back to November 10th, which is this season, last year, had 17 rebounds in 29 minutes. And look, 2 games so far this season, he's covered his rebound prop. 17 boards and 12 boards respectively. I think Kevon Looney is definitely in play. Definitely in play. Going through some of these other rebound props here. Joel Embiid, do we trust him to rebound the basketball tonight? I don't know. Sometimes it seems like Embiid takes the night off when it comes to rebounding. I've played him before, and I'm just like, Joel, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you trying to pull your best Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle impersonation right now? Get your big, you know what, under the basket and pull me in some rebounds. Sometimes he doesn't rebound, though. Sometimes he does not want to rebound. But at 11.5 boards over the last 10 games, 7 out of 10, he has gone over 11.5. So he's showing great rebounding form here over the last 10 and more specifically over the last 5 games. 4 out of the last 5, he's got rebound totals of 12, 13, 12, and 14, averaging 11.8 boards per game. Going up against the Lakers tonight, I think he'll play with extra added motivation against Anthony Davis and company. What do you guys think? This seems like the type of game where Joel Embiid will definitely come ready to play. Let's go ahead and take a look at the matchup here. Rebounds at the center position. How many are the Lakers given up over the last 7 games? They're toward the top of this list, y'all. They are toward the top of this list, y'all. 16.2 rebounds allowed to opposing centers over the last 7 games. So I would say that the matchup here for Joel Embiid, looking pretty good. Looking quite nice. Let's pull a projection up for Embiid. Got him projected for 11.3 boards, which isn't terrible. Not the worst rebound projection in the world, right? It's pretty close to 11.5. It's more than 11. We can say that, right? We could at least say that. Looking at 3 different sites here, though, the betting public, they're all smashing the under on Joel Embiid at 11.5 boards. Now, I want to know how Joel Embiid has done against the Lakers when it comes to rebounds in the past. So let's take a look. We go Joel Embiid rebounds versus Lakers logs. And we could kind of get a quick glimpse, a picture of how many times Embiid has covered this rebound prop going all the way back to 2016 against this Lakers team. When he plays the Lakers, he's only covered his rebound prop of 11.5 in 2 games. 2 out of 6. Not the greatest hit rate in the world. But the matchup looks pretty good. This could be a different Embiid. Maybe we ride this little hot streak of 4 straight games of him going over 11.5 boards. Are you guys on or off Embiid going over 11.5 rebounds? Leave a thumbs up if you're liking the over. a thumbs down if you're liking the under, or you're just going to fade. Let me know. Let me know. Chill Robot says he enjoyed the Fantasy Labs video yesterday. Glad that you liked it. Glad you enjoyed it. Let's go take a look at what David has to say here. My man left a super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. David. He is talking about some Tyrese Maxey, Furkan Korkmaz, and Joel Embiid killing their fantasy points props this season without Seth Curry. Check them out later, but I might have to drop for a few minutes. Well, thank you so much, David, for leaving that little nugget. So we're talking Maxey, Cork, and Embiid. All right, fantasy points. We'll check them out in just a moment for sure. For shizzle. You guys are saying fading Joel Embiid's rebound. You're off of it, seeing some thumbs down. Not liking Joel Embiid's rebounds. I got you. Okay, I'm just taking the temperature of the room here. We're trying to gauge and see what you guys are liking and not liking. That's pretty good to know, though. Good stuff. What about Jared Vanderbilt? We talked about his points. How about his rebounds? Now, when you look at his rebounds, there's been some great games for Jared Vanderbilt when it comes to rebounding the basketball, but he's at 9 rebounds today. Over the last 10 games, a 50% hit rate. This one could be a coin flip. This is one of those props where I think it could go either way. Looking at Vanderbilt over the last 5 games, it's been pretty ugly. Don't know that I'm loving what I'm seeing here, but let's look at this matchup nonetheless. Power forwards against the Golden State Warriors. I think if we're going to play Vanderbilt any which way, just on first glance here, it's probably going to be his points, right? Golden State giving up about 10.7 boards, kind of puts them middle of the pack. And then a projection real quick for Vandy. Mr. Vanderbilt projected for 11.5 rebounds. So he's at 9 on PrizePicks, projected for 2.5 more rebounds on Action Labs. And at 9.5 boards, we're seeing him being bet for the over -135, -140, and -135 odds. So that's why I wanted to bring him to your attention, because he's projected so darn high, and betting public are smashing the over on Jared Vanderbilt at just 9 boards. Kind of an interesting pick. But again, if you want to feel safe, secure, warm, and fuzzy, probably want to play his points instead of his rebounds. Let's take a look at some assist props, folks. Looking at the dime droppers here. Who's been getting it done? Well, Tobias Harris has been getting it done, but he is not up on the board at 3.5 assists, rocking a 60% hit rate over the last 10 games. I will warn you that everybody else up on the board right now has a hit rate over the last 10 games of 50% or worse. 50% or worse. So for me, I don't know that I trust any of these guys. We've seen some weird stuff where Joel Embiid's assists have hit. Do they hit better or worse without Seth Curry, though? That could be something kind of worth looking at. Let's take a look. Joel Embiid assists without Seth Curry logs. Let's take a look and see. Okay, kind of interesting. So we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4 games. 4 games this season without Seth Curry. Joel Embiid has covered his assist prop of 4.5 dimes in 3 out of 4. That's a 75% hit rate. That's pretty damn good. 6 assists against Houston, 6 against the Clippers, 6 against the Spurs, and he came really close with 4 against New Orleans back on January 25th, 2 days ago. So maybe, despite the low hit rates over the last 10 games, he could be in play with Seth Curry out of the lineup. As David mentioned, a lot of these Sixers players tend to hit their props, fantasy points or otherwise, with Mr. Seth Curry out of the way, out of the picture. So we've got Embiid at 4.5 assists, projected for 4, not seeing anybody taking the over or the under on any of the sports books just yet. But it's kind of interesting, right? 3 out of 4 games, he's covered 4.5 dimes. So maybe there's a chance he gets it done. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling about some of these other ones. Karl Anthony Towns, do you feel great about it? No, but he does have 7 assist upside. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Maybe Steph Curry. It's just been hit or miss been hit or miss with a lot of these guys. I don't think I'm really feeling a lot of these assist props, but we'll definitely turn things over to you guys. Maybe there's some assist props that I'm missing or overlooking. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these fantasy points props. My man dropped a super chat, Mr. David. He said that Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Furkan Korkmaz have been covering their fantasy point props at a pretty high hit rate without Seth Curry. So let's take a look at that. Joel Embiid, and we'll use FanDuel points without Seth Curry logs. Quite interesting. Looking pretty good here. We've got, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 game logs with Joel Embiid without Seth Curry, and he has covered his fantasy point props without Seth Curry in 4 out of 4 games. That's a 100% hit rate for Joel Embiid without Seth Curry. So his fantasy points might be in play here. Let's look at this matchup. Obviously, he's a center playing against the Los Angeles Lakers. They're giving up the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing centers, guys. Over 63.5 fantasy points allowed over the last 7 games. Yeah, I think Joel Embiid's fantasy points should definitely be considered here. What do you guys think? Thumbs up or down on Joel Embiid fantasy points so far? Let's pull a projection on this. I want to see what Fantasy Labs has to say. Well, they got him projected for 54.2 fantasy points, showing a ceiling of 71.8 fantasy points, and he's got a rating of nearly 93 out of 100. Things are looking muy bien, quite good for Joel Embiid in terms of fantasy points. Like I said, 4 for 4. 73.8 points, 63.4 points, 62.6 points, and 56.6 points. He's gone 4 for 4 in covering his fantasy points prop without Seth Curry. He gets a defense allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game over the last 7 games. And he's projected for right around 54 to 55 fantasy points with a ceiling of up to 71 to 72 fantasy points. I think Embiid is in a prime position, and I expect to see him come out motivated. So that's Embiid. He also mentioned Maxey and Korkmaz. So let's take a look at those guys real quick while we're talking some fantasy points. Tyrese Maxey. FanDuel points without Seth Curry. So he is at 29.5 fantasy points. 29.5. How many games does he have this season, from this season, without Seth Curry? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games. He's at 29.5 fantasy points. He has covered this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 games. Really high hit rate here for Tyrese Maxey. Now he's shown 49 and 37 fantasy point upside, but he's also showing some very close. He got it done, but some very close games. 33, 33, 30 in some of these games. So Maxey, 5 out of 6 games this season without Seth Curry on the court has covered his fantasy points prop. Let's take a look at the matchup for Maxey. We liked his points. We liked what we saw from his points. Lakers, in terms of fantasy points given up to point guards, over 53 fantasy points per game, which is the 6th most. Yes. This looks like a good spot. Good spot for Tyrese Maxey. Feeling it. Let's go take a look at a projection for Mr. Maxey here. I've got it projected for 34.4 fantasy points, which puts him over 29.5 by about 4 to 5 fantasy points, right? 47-point ceiling here. His rating, 85 out of 100. Very strong rating for Tyrese Maxey. So I'm liking Embiid and I'm liking Maxey here. I think both of them look pretty good. What are you guys thinking? I think they both have shown a very good competency when covering their fantasy point prop. The last guy that Mr. David mentioned on his super chat was Furkan Korkmaz. He's at 19.5 fantasy points tonight. Let's pull up his card, give you something else to look at here. 19.5 fantasy points. Over the last 5 games, he's covered in 4 out of 5 games, an 80% hit rate, showing a pretty nice hit rate here. Let's go take a look and see how many games he's got in his game log without Seth Curry this season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games Now let's count them down together. How many times out of 7 games has he actually covered 19.5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 7? I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at 5 out of 7. 5 out of 7 for Korkmaz. What was it? 5 out of 6 for Maxey and 4 for Embiid. All of these guys showing a pretty high hit rate with Seth Curry out of the mix. Let's go look at the small forward position here, which is kind of where Korkmaz lines up. Shooting guard, small forward. He's a wing player, right? Fair to say. We'll go look at this matchup against the Lakers. Lakers giving up about 40.6 fantasy points per game to small forwards. You can kind of see that puts them, like top 15-ish. Looking at the shooting guard spot, the Lakers allowing about 37.9, let's call it 38, which kind of puts them down toward the bottom. They're like in the middle of the pack, but down toward the bottom of the middle. So not a bad matchup. Looks like a decent matchup for Furkan Korkmaz. We'll pull a projection for him as well. Korkmaz projected for 26.2 fantasy points, gang. 26.2 fantasy points versus 19.5. Definitely cross-reference this. Look at some other sites that offer free FanDuel projections for NBA, but 26.2 is a whole heck of a lot more than 19.5. So I think there's a bit of an edge here, enough for me to say that taking over on Furkan Korkmaz wouldn't be the worst decision you make tonight. All right? So those are some fantasy point props. Out of Embiid, Maxey, and Korkmaz, are you liking one more than the other 3? Are you liking all 3? Which ones are you guys liking? Let me know. Who are you going over on? I'm seeing some folks saying they're rolling with Embiid and Maxey over fantasy points. Malachi's talking about the Corky fantasy point prop. Feels right. I'm seeing some love on some Maxey. I trust Maxey more than Korkmaz, according to Busy Time 160. Sammy saying he's liking Korkmaz fantasy points a little bit more. Okay. Got a little mixed bag here. You folks are liking, sounds like a little bit of everything. Maybe you make a same game parlay and you put all 3 of them in your lineup over on their fantasy points. You sprinkle in some of your favorite Lakers players. And you got something there like a little same game. Aaron Rodgers saying that he's liking Maxey's points. So, Mr. Rodgers, are you liking Maxey's points more than his fantasy points? That is a question. Let's move it on over here and take a look at some of these 3-point props. Not a whole lot to choose from here, folks. Slim pickings. We've got Andrew Wiggins, though, who in the past has done a pretty good job of knocking down 1.5 or more 3-point makes. So 2 or more 3-point makes. Last couple of games, not so good for Andrew Wiggins. Has gone under in 2 straight games. Now, previously I would have said Wiggins doesn't typically have back-to-back bad games. But he has had back-to-back bad games against Utah and Dallas, respectively. He's averaging 1.6 3-point makes versus his line of 1.5. So, will Andrew Wiggins have 3 bad games in a row? Something inside of me wants to say no. He's facing off against his former team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. A little bit of a revenge game, perhaps. A little revenge narrative. If you guys remember, he was drafted by the Cavaliers, traded to Minnesota. That is what sent Kevin Love over to the Cavs. If my history, NBA history serves me correct. Wiggins drafted by the Cavs, traded on draft night to Minnesota, and that's where he spent the first few years of his career. So maybe there's a little bit of a revenge narrative here for Mr. Andrew Wiggins, and he gets to shoot the ball a lot more. Let's go take a look at small forwards in the 3-point column going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Folks, stop what you're doing. Pay attention. Minnesota, over the last 7 games against small forwards, have allowed 4 3-point makes per game, which is the second most. If Wiggins were to ever get back on track and make 2 or more 3-point makes, He cannot ask for much more of a better matchup. There's only 2 teams over the last 7 games giving up 4 or more 3-point makes. Minnesota, Sacramento. The matchup is there, guys. The matchup is there for Andrew Wiggins. Now, I like to look at the shooting guard spot too. Kind of interchangeable. Him and Klay Thompson, both wing players, right? Both wing players. Minnesota giving up 3.4 3-point makes over the last 7 games. Still a very healthy number. The guy needs 2. So 3.4 3-point makes to shooting guards, 4 3-point makes to small forwards. So I think Andrew Wiggins, unless you think he's going to have 3 bad games in a row, it could happen. Listen, it could happen. But unless you think he's going to have 3 underperforming games in a row, maybe he's worth taking an over on. Let's dig into this a little bit further, okay? I think we can go to the great beyond and dig in a little bit deeper here. Andrew Wiggins, 3 p.m. versus Minnesota Logs. Let's just see how he's done here. Ooh. I don't know. Is it something or is it nothing? Could it be something or could it be nothing? I'm just going to say this. 4 out of 5 games as a Golden State Warrior against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he has hit 2 or more 3-pointers. He's on a 2-game slide, a 2-game skid here of going under 1.5. He's going to bounce back at some point. If not now, then when? If not now, then when? Revenge game against Minnesota. T-Wolves giving up over 4 3-point makes per game over the last 7 games, the second most to small forwards. He's covered this in 4 out of 5 games. I want to believe in Wiggins so badly tonight. I do. I feel compelled to take the over. And so does the betting public. He's projected for 2.1 3-point makes. The betting public taking him over 1.5 3-point makes, minus 140 betting favorite to cover. You let me know. Thumbs up or thumbs down, people. Andrew Wiggins, 1.5 3-point makes. Thumbs up means he's going over. Thumbs down means he's going to have a 3rd game in a row where he goes under 1.5 3-point makes. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to win, and I want to help you win. This looks like all of the stars are aligning for Andrew Wiggins tonight. I don't know. It's just looking like everything's lining up for Andrew Wiggins tonight. If he sells us, he's going to go in the same bucket as Julius Randle for me. Bucket that has a lid on it that he will never get out of. All right. Listen. Probably my favorite 3-point play on the board right now. If he can't get it done here and now against Minnesota, coming off of 2 bad games in a row, this guy's got to get it done at some point. Got to get it done at some point. All right. I'm not going to get into these other 3-point makes, but I will tell you this, that Steph Curry at 3.5 3-point makes. Guys, can you ever remember a time when Steph Curry's 3-point prop was at 3.5? This is like better than Taco Tuesday. We had a Taco Tuesday Steph Curry prop at one point that got reduced down to 5.5. We're talking about, let me just chill for a second. We're talking about the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, who is at 3.5. 3.5 3-point makes. I don't think I've ever seen Steph Curry's 3-point prop this low before. I know he's shooting pretty bad. Listen, I know he's in a slump. He's not getting it done. I know that. Come on, man. You guys like narratives? We're gonna hop back and we're gonna go back in time. You guys remember the draft? Steph Curry when he got drafted? Who the Minnesota Timberwolves took ahead of him in that draft. Do you guys remember? Holler at me. This is a little bit of a quiz for you guys. Who did Minnesota take in that draft ahead of Steph Curry? Do you guys remember? There was two players, and they were both point guards. We're going to play a game. We got time today, people. We only got 2 damn NBA games to talk about. We got time to play quiz games. Yeah. You guys know. Some of you guys know. I see the right answer. Johnny freaking Flynn, Ricky freaking Rubio, both drafted ahead of Steph Curry in that draft by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Is there a narrative here? Does Steph Curry remember that? I'm sure he remembers that, getting passed up for Johnny Flynn, for Ricky freaking Rubio. Okay? I got to look at it. I got to know. How Steph Curry has performed. Stephen Curry, 3-point makes versus Minnesota game logs. Let's look at it. There's a lot of them in here. He's been playing a long time, right? He's at 3.5. 3.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His last 5 games against Minnesota, he's covered in 4 out of 5. It's an 80% hit rate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The previous 5 games to that, 4 out of 5. 80% hit rate in his last 10 meetings against Minnesota. He's got some bad ones in here too. I ain't gonna sit up here and tell you that he ain't got some bad ones. He's got some bad ones in here too. 2, 0, 1, 2, 2. But I'm not gonna go all the way back to 2013, 2014. I'm not gonna go back that far. All right. I'm just gonna say here in the last 10 games, 80%. 80% hit rate. Let's go look at the matchup. Going up against Minnesota, they're giving up 3.3 3-point makes per game to opposing point guards, which is the 7th most. 7th most. So for me, it's more about the ranking, less about the number. This guy's going to get the volume. He's going to shoot threes. The volume will be there. But the fact that Minnesota ranks so high on this list is a good indicator for me. I feel okay about it. I just want to look at the shooting guard spot again, just because I like looking at both guard spots. 3.4. So again, they rank toward the top. They rank toward the top in point guard, shooting guard, and small forwards. All of them rank toward the top in terms of 3-point makes allowed. He's also, like Andrew Wiggins, in a 2-game slump. Will he have a 3rd game where he goes under 3.5 3-point makes? The greatest 3-point shooter of all time. Listen, I don't want to, sit here and harp on it for too long. I got him projected for 5.8 3-point makes. He's on 2 different sites, 2 different books at 3.5 3-point makes to cover minus 145 odds. Thumbs up for the over on Steph Curry at 3.5 3-point makes. Thumbs down if you think he's going to struggle tonight and go under 3.5 3-point makes. Let me know. I agree, No Limit Tal. Slumps have to come to an end at some point. The greatest 3-point shooter of our lives, of anybody's lives, is at 3.5 3-point makes against the team that drafted Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn ahead of him. I don't know, man. At some point, Steph's got to get right. All right, free throw makes. What are we liking here? It's kind of the same story for me, but if you've never seen kind of my thoughts or heard my thoughts on free throw makes, it's going to be the guys with the ball in their hand the most. You want the high usage guys. You want guys that are going to be aggressive, that are going to put themselves in position to get fouled. People who are attacking the rim, right? And then you want guys, once they get to the free throw line, who shoot at a high free throw percentage. You need them to make their free throws when they get there, right? You also want guys who are going to be the designated shooter in a technical foul situation. Say there's a tech dished out. Who's going to go to the free throw line? Somebody like Steph Curry will be the technical foul shooter for their team. You also want guys in late game, crunch time situations when those intentional fouls start coming out. The team's going to want to get the ball into the hands of their best free throw shooter. Okay? When those intentional fouls start coming in, that's an easy way to pick up some free throw makes. So those are my thoughts on that. So guys like LeBron James, obviously. Joel Embiid, high usage guy. Steph Curry, high usage, high free throw percentage maker. All right. Ant Edwards is typically aggressive. D'Angelo Russell, So those are, some ideas, some ways you can go. Blocks and steals, we got one guy up on the board. It's Steph Curry. I will not waste your time. I will just simply pull up a projection for him. Steph Curry's projected for 1.8 blocks and steals. All right, hit me with your questions. We won't know who the locks are tonight, busy time, until the games are over. So I'll answer your question, who the locks are, once the games have ended. Then I'll have a better idea who the locks were. Yeah. You guys are liking some LeBron James and Joel Embiid for free throws. Love that. Love that. Donato's asking about Ant-Man. My man Anthony Edwards at 21.5 points versus Golden State. 25 points against Brooklyn, 40 points against Portland. The previous two games, 20 and 21, coming very close to going over 21.5, but close. Wasn't good enough. So Anthony Edwards at 21.5 points versus Golden State. Let's go take a look at this matchup. Let's look at the shooting guard spot. See how many points are given up by the Golden State Warriors. Golden State giving up about 21.1 points per game to shooting guards. So this is really going to depend if Pat Beverly is in or out tonight. Small forward spot, we'll look at that one as well. Golden State giving up 16.7. Wow, putting the clamps on. So he'll probably be matched up against the likes of Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, depending on who's in, who's out for Minnesota. So the matchup's not looking great. Not looking great for Anthony Edwards. Let's just pull a projection up for him. I got Ant projected for nearly 23 points. We are seeing him as high as 22.5 on some books out there, which means we're getting about a point of value here on PrizePicks. PrizePicks putting up a lower number for Anthony Edwards at just 21.5. Cool. Zebo. What's up, Zebo? Vanderbilt or Karl Anthony Towns fantasy points? Who would you go with? Well, let's take a look at both guys, all right? Because we talked about liking maybe some Jared Vanderbilt over points again. His rebounds, kind of hit or miss. But we have not talked Karl Anthony Towns fantasy points or Jared Vanderbilt's fantasy points. But Cat, 41 fantasy points is his projection today. He's covered this in 4 out of 5. That's an 80% hit rate. 80% hit rate for Karl Anthony Towns. Let's look at the matchup here. Center position. How many fantasy points per game are the Golden State Warriors allowing to centers over the last 7? 60, guys. 60.2 fantasy points. So right off the bat here, I'm going to have to say that Karl Anthony Towns would probably be my preferred fantasy point option out of he and Jared Vanderbilt. Golden State giving up over 60 fantasy points per game. They're one of only 8 teams giving up 60 or more fantasy points in that 7-game span. Towns should be in a pretty good spot tonight. Got him projected for 50. You guys paying attention? 50.4 fantasy points. I have Karl Anthony Towns projected for 50.4 fantasy points. He's at 41 right now on PrizePicks. That's like 9 fantasy points different. I don't get to see 9 fantasy points different every single day, all right? It is rare that we get a player at 9 fantasy points different in such a great matchup like Karl Anthony Towns. So to answer your question, Karl Anthony Towns, not Jared Vanderbilt. I won't even look at Jared Vanderbilt now. I just want to see Karl Anthony Towns FanDuel points versus Warriors logs. At 41 fantasy points, he's covered this in 4 straight games versus the Warriors. He's 4 out of his last 5 games. We go back even further here. 5, 6 out of his last 7 games against the Warriors. He's covered 41 fantasy points. You look at just over the course of his career, how many times he's covered 41 fantasy points. It's a pretty high hit rate. I'm not going to count it all out, but you could see how many times he's gone for more than 41 fantasy points. More often than not, he is covering this. And especially here lately. I mean, he played Golden State on 1/16/2022, which was this season, just like a couple weeks ago. 45 fantasy points. Back on November 10th, this season, last year, 42.2 fantasy points. So he is covered in 2 games this season against Golden State. Boom. Yes. I think we have to go there. I like that, man. What were some of the other highlights that we liked out of this group of guys, this bunch? I think we talked about Joel Embiid looking like a pretty strong play. So if you want to go like an all fantasy score play, you got Embiid, you got Karl Anthony Towns looking pretty good. I think we like some Tyrese Maxey. We even mentioned some Furkan Korkmaz. Then, I don't know, maybe you sprinkle in Andrew Wiggins or Steph Curry over 3-point makes, and you got yourself a nice little 5 pick going. Right? I mean, those are some of the studs, the highlights of the show. Or maybe you take Tyrese Maxey out for fantasy points and you play his points prop instead. I think both are in play. But boom, there you go. You got yourself a 5 pick. And then for me, I'd probably run those same group of guys in like a 2 pick maybe, or a 3 pick. What you guys thinking though? You guys are liking some free throws. You got free throw options up there for LeBron. Embiid. Let's, I think I'll build a little same game joint right here. Let's go Karl Anthony Towns. Who do I trust more? I actually like both Curry and Wiggins to go over their 3-point prop. So we'll just build out like a little same game. We'll throw $20 on it. I'm actually going to hedge as well and build a second entry because I can't decide. I like both of them. Boom. We got a little same game going. Karl Anthony Towns over fantasy points with Steph Curry over 3-point makes. And then I got Karl Anthony Towns over fantasy points with Andrew Wiggins over 3-point makes. There you go. A little hedgy hedge action. But yeah, those are looking like 2 or 3 strong plays. So I put my money where my mouth is, just to let y'all know. Hector says, just want to say thanks for all that you do. It's been helping me. I'm glad that it's been helping you. Leroy, you're asking about PRA on Towns. Well, I love his fantasy score. I think we're seeing a ton of value on Karl Anthony Towns' fantasy score. But his PRA, let's go ahead and check at that. There may not be as much value on his PRA. Let's look though. 36.5. So against the Warriors, you could kind of see 26, 11, and 1. It'd be easier if I went and did this, wouldn't it? Let's do this. Points plus rebounds plus assists versus Warriors. All right. So he hit here, hit there, did not hit there. So 3 out of his last 5 games, he has covered 36.5 PRA. Not as high of a hit rate on PRA as his fantasy points. We go back to the 5 games before that one. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5. So overall, he's covered his PRA at a 70% clip against the Warriors over his last 10 games. So I think fantasy points look like a better value than PRA to me, personally. I got Karl Anthony Towns, though, projected for 42.5 PRA. So he is loved. He is loved today by the Fantasy Labs fantasy models and by their player prop projection tool. So higher hit rate on the fantasy points over the PRA. You guys are saying, what is the better bet? Andrew Wiggins or Curry threes? I took both. I think they're both in a good spot to go over. And listen, when you do two pick power plays, pending Karl Anthony Towns does his job and goes over 41 fantasy points, if I get one of those power plays right and the other one misses, in other words, if Curry goes under, let's say, and Wiggins goes over in the other entry, I still make money. I still come out ahead. You only have to get one out of 3 power picks right to break even. But if you go 1 out of 2 on your power picks, you make money. You make money. Matt Clark is liking some LeBron James assists. Trevor, I took Andrew Wiggins threes. I just locked Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins in together in a same game parlay. I took over Karl Anthony Towns fantasy points, and I took the over on Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 threes. I also took the over on Steph Curry's threes at 3.5 with Karl Anthony Towns. All right. Let's look at LeBron James assists, because we haven't really talked about any assist props. Are you guys buyers or sellers on LeBron James at 6 assists? Are you going over or under on this? Obviously, Anthony Davis back in the lineup for the Lakers. LeBron sitting at 6 dimes, has went for 6 or more in just 2 of his last 5 games. So not a super crazy high hit rate. Don't really love any assist props. I think I kind of said that earlier, but for those of you just getting here, I don't think I'm going to play any assist props. Got LeBron James at 6.5 out on your favorite sports books. He's a betting favorite to go under on all 3, -140, -125 odds. But he is projected to go over. But the projections aren't always right, guys. They're not always right. 6.9. 6.9 assists is his projection. Tobias Harris assists. Yeah. Was he up on the board? He's not up on the board. I mentioned him, though, earlier when we did talk assists. He's one of the higher hit rate assist guys, Tobias Harris. But not up on the board tonight, unfortunately. At least not yet. But I'll pull a projection up for you. Got him projected for 4 dimes. And he's at 3.5 on most books, but 4.5 on one of the other ones. So, yeah, King Chris, we talked about liking some Kevon Looney rebounds earlier. I think Kevon Looney is in a nice spot here. He's covered his rebound prop in both previous matchups against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He hit double-digit boards against Minnesota. Looney's rebounds definitely in play for me. Definitely in play for me. Got him projected for 9.4 boards, in case you guys missed that. So, yeah, I think Looney, for me, definitely in play. So you could go even further. Like, let's say you like both of these guys, right? You like Looney rebounds. You like both Wiggins and Curry. We talked about liking some Karl Anthony Towns fantasy points. And we also liked some, what was it? Jared Vanderbilt maybe over points. I mean, you could build out something like that too for like a 5 pick. Same game parlay 5 pick. Looney over boards. Curry over 3-point makes. Wiggins over 3-point makes. Towns over fantasy score. Maybe Vanderbilt over points. Let's do it. So I put 10 on my power pick. I'll lower my wager a little bit here, my entry amount a little bit here, because obviously the odds of hitting a 5 pick are lower. So for me, The more props are in my entry, the lower my amount comes down. So I'll do about half of what I do on my power pick. And I'll just throw in a 5-pick same game parlay of those 5 guys. I don't know that I love a lot on the Lakers side. We really haven't talked about a lot that we love on the Lakers side. Like maybe LeBron points. Maybe LeBron points. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot that we talked about liking on the Lakers side, right? Hard to trust these Lakers, especially with Anthony Davis. So I don't know if I'll do any like SGP, same game parlays on that side. You're talking LeBron's 3-point makes. Maybe he comes back to life. You know, he's in a 3-game skid himself at 2.5 3-point makes. Let's look at this matchup for him against Philadelphia. Power forwards. We'll go to the 3-point area here. Philadelphia giving up about 3-point makes. Philadelphia's given up 2. I mean, maybe you take a shot on LeBron James over 3 or over 2.5 3-point makes. Got him projected for 2.8. He's a betting favorite to go over. So maybe he's worth a shot. I mean, there's not a lot that I love on the Lakers side. Avery Bradley. Yeah, we did talk about Avery Bradley over points. We did mention him. Oh, I would love King United. I would love if they had Anthony Davis back up at 18.5 points. Lena Keela is saying that Karl Anthony Towns is kind of iffy to bet on today. I don't know why. I don't know why either. You guys are saying fade Avery Bradley. Well, can't be mad at you on that. Thoughts on Tobias Harris rebounds? He's at 7.5. He's covered in 2 straight games. Going up against the Lakers. Let's go look at the matchup here. How many boards per game are they giving up to opposing power forwards? About 10.2, so he needs 8 to cover. The matchup, not the greatest, not the softest matchup in the world, but doable. I'll just pull a projection for you real quick on Tobias Harris. 7.8, so they like him to go over, but the betting public taking the under on Tobias Harris here. Isaac says that LeBron James is averaging 7.6 3-point attempts in his last 5 games, only shooting 28.9% in that span. Interesting. So it's not a matter of opportunities. It's a matter of him converting on the 3-point opportunities. Rodgers is not liking Tobias Harris rebounds. Yeah, not my favorite play either. You guys are saying maybe some LeBron free throws. Seeing a lot of love for LeBron James free throw makes. LeBron James FTM versus Sixers logs. Since joining the Lakers, he has covered his free throw prop of 4 in 2 out of 4 games versus Philadelphia. 2 out of 4 games versus Philadelphia. Now, I just want to see his free throw makes over the last 10 games here. Not bad. 4 could be a push, though. Definitely could be a push just looking at these logs here. He's gone for 4 or more in his last 5 games in 3 out of 5. And then we go back to the previous 5 games. He's gone for 4 or more in 5 straight games there. So not super high free throw numbers over the last 10 games, but he's hit 4 or more in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. Definitely could be setting up for a push, though, which is always a stretch, right? Iman, 5 play. Listen, I already put in 1 5-pick entry here. This guy right here, Kevon Looney over rebounds. We had Steph Curry over 3.5 3-point makes. Andrew Wiggins over 1.5 3-point makes. Karl Anthony Towns over 41 fantasy points. Jared Vanderbilt over 7.5 points. It's just one shot, one stab that I took at a 5-pick same game parlay. Took a couple of power picks down here. You can kind of see those. Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns. I think Wiggins or Curry is bound to hit. And Cat, again, in case you missed what we were talking about, Karl Anthony Towns is projected for 50.4 fantasy points with a 65 fantasy point ceiling. He's at 41 here on PrizePicks. So I feel pretty good, especially when you look at the historical hit rates for Karl Anthony Towns. I feel pretty good that he gets it done. But if you wanted to do like a same game build with some of these 76ers guys, I think you could either look at Maxey fantasy points or you could go Maxey's raw points, his actual points. Nothing really stood out to me about Tobias Harris. For me, it was Embiid, who is 4 for 4 and covering 54.5 fantasy points without Seth Curry this season. Maxey, who was 5 for 6 and covering 29.5 fantasy points without Seth Curry this season. And Furkan Korkmaz, who was 6 out of 8, I want to say, or 5 out of 7 and covering his 19.5 fantasy points without Seth Curry. But I think the stars here were probably Maxey and Embiid. There's risk for LeBron to push, but I think I'd rather push than lose. So I think we could lock maybe LeBron in. Didn't really love anything out of Westbrook. It's really just Westbrook or LeBron. So I'd have to fill this in with more 76ers. I don't know. Maybe we go back and we take Furkan Korkmaz over fantasy points. And then we're really kind of stretching it thin here. I mean, you got Avery Bradley as an option at 6.5 points. If you wanted to build like a same game parlay, I guess you could go with him. Like there's really just not a lot of options here. Maybe you go with him. He needs just 7 points. Has done a decent job at hitting this. But like if you wanted to go there, I mean, I'll do it just because why not, right? Oh, projections have changed. What changed? Something changed here, folks. What was it? It says the projections have changed. Do you guys notice what it was? I can't tell. Was it Korkmaz? Was he down at 19? Or was it Maxey? It says something changed in these projections when I went to lock it in. Don't you love that when you get that message? You go to lock an entry in and it says, oops, projections have changed. Maxey's fantasy points changed. Well, that's okay. I'll pivot over to his actual points, which I was okay with those as well. Projections have changed again. Were his points at 17.5 and now they just dropped down to 16.5? Wow. Well, thank you. They're dropping Tyrese Maxey down? Weird. Why are they doing that? They trying to hook us up, folks? Well, I think I'm going to take Tyrese Maxey's actual points now. What do you guys think? Let's take a look at it. Yeah, he's at 17.5. Yeah, I think I'll take that. I think I will take that. Tyrese Maxey points without Seth Curry logs. Let's just take a look at that. He has covered 16.5 points this season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6 times. 5 out of 6. Let's take a look at his FanDuel points. FanDuel points, where's he at? He's at 29. He's covered this in 5 out of 6 as well. So, I mean, I don't know. You can't really go wrong with either one, but the fact that we just got a point of value on his points, I think I'll go ahead and take his actual points instead of fantasy points. There we go. Entry submitted. So I don't know. These are some ideas, some options, some ways to go. Like I said, there's not a lot on the Lakers side that I'm really loving. So I took LeBron over 4 free throw makes, Avery Bradley over 6.5 points. That one's probably the one that scares me the most because it's Avery freaking Bradley. But yeah, it looks like we got a little bump down on both Tyrese Maxey's fantasy points and his actual points. Jared Vanderbilt's rebounds are now down to 8.5. Interesting. You wonder why? Well, I don't know why. I don't ask questions. We've done our research, and for me anyway, it looks like a good play to go over Tyrese Maxey's fantasy points. I'm not going to worry about why they bumped him down. I look at historical information, ride with the projections, look at the matchups. Everything looks good for Tyrese Maxey. I ain't afraid that they gave us a discount. Look, the Lakers, again, giving up 28 points per game to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. So unless there's some news like Seth Curry is in all of a sudden, then I don't know why they would be bumping Tyrese Maxey down. That could always happen, right? A guy could get ruled in and totally screw us for locking in too early. That could always be a thing. Anyway, guys, I think that's about it. Oh, shoot. We got a super chat. My bad, Andres. My bad. I got so busy locking in entries and trying to figure out why Tyrese Maxey did what he did. My bad. Let's look at it. Andres de la Vara says he's very late to the party, but do you have 1 or 2 favorites? Listen, I just locked in like 7 favorites. I think we've pretty much beat this slate to death here. Just to go over some of the picks that stood out to me. Joel Embiid over 54.5 fantasy points, 4 for 4 in covering without Seth Curry this season, going up against the Los Angeles Lakers, who are giving up the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing centers. LeBron James, 80% hit rate in his last 10 games of 4 free throws or more. Yes, it could push, but I'm okay with that. Furkan Korkmaz at 19.5 fantasy points. I think he was like 5 out of 7 in covering 19.5 fantasy points without Seth Curry this season. Avery Bradley, not my favorite pick, but you got to have 5 if you want to go for 10x, and there's not a lot on the Lakers side. So I took a shot on Avery Bradley over 6.5 points. He's been getting it done. Tyrese Maxey, we just got a discount on him. He's now at 16.5 points. He's at 17.5 on your favorite sports book. He's a betting favorite to go over 17.5. He's covered 16.5 points in 5 out of 6 games without Seth Curry this season. Kevon Looney, 8.5 rebounds. He's recorded double-digit rebounds in 2 previous games against the Minnesota Timberwolves this season. High hit rates at 8.5 rebounds over the last 5 and 10 games for Kevon Looney. Steph Curry, greatest three-point shooter of all time, was passed up by the Minnesota Timberwolves for both Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio. Maybe there's some revenge narrative here. Maybe Seth Curry finally breaks out of his 2-game slump and goes for 4 or more three-point makes. Andrew Wiggins, also in a 2-game slump, 1.5 three-point makes, was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe he breaks out of his 3-game slump. Minnesota Timberwolves giving up the 2nd most three-point makes to the small forward position over the last 7 games. If he never breaks out of a slump, if he doesn't break out here, he'll never break out of the slump. Karl Anthony Towns at 41 fantasy points was at 50 fantasy points over on Fantasy Labs. 9-point fantasy difference. Has covered this prop against the Golden State Warriors in a whole bunch of games over his career, including like 3 or 4 straight games against Golden State. Golden State Warriors giving up a whole lot of fantasy points to the center position, 60.2 over the last 7 games. Jared Vanderbilt at 7.5 points. He's covered this prop at an 80% clip over the last 10 games, an 80% clip over the last 5 games. I'm taking a shot on him. Don't love him, but I'm taking a shot on him. He's been getting it done. That's it. There's your recap. Was that too much? Whew. I'm out of breath. It's this goat fuel stuff, man. You gotta stay off this goat fuel. It's called goat fuel. That's the recap, man. Right off the top of the dome. You see that? Right off the top of the dome. There you go. I'm out of here, guys. 2 games. Don't go crazy, all right? I locked in a few things. You see what I played. I locked in a few things. 2-game slate. Let's not go nuts. Good luck tonight. Thank you so much. Drop a like before you leave. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you tomorrow for another show, 11 o'clock, right here. Same YouTube channel, same YouTube time. Appreciate you.